Thank you, Kathy. So I'm Eric Green, Director of the National Human Genome Research Institute. In fact, many of you in the room originally received an invitation to this workshop from myself and Gary Gibbons, Director of the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, which really reflected our two institutes' considerable interest in the areas we're going to be talking about for the next 2 days. And in fact, in both cases, our two institutes had heard from external groups in recent months, in fact, about the incredible need for such a cohort for the mission of our respective institutes. And so we jump-started the process by planning this workshop, and then we're delighted to now broaden the context so that it would fit within the planning for the President's announced initiative in precision medicine. Over the next 2 days, we've got a lot of ground to cover. And in fact, many of the topics we're going to talk about or we're going to touch on could be devoted to 2-day meetings in and of themselves. And so what we really do need to do is stay focused. And so we've built the agenda in a fashion that will allow time for discussion along the way and then at the end of each day. But I would also say that we know that we're going to come up against topics and areas that simply can't be dealt with adequately, especially in real time as the sessions as organized are being held. And so one of the things we've done is we've put a couple easels up over there, and I've labeled it parking lot topics. So what we ask the moderators to do is if you come up against a topic that needs more time, but you don't want to devote time within your particular session, we'll just write it up there. And then actually at the end of tomorrow, I'm going to actually moderate a session where we'll try to take some of those topics, dig a little deeper, and maybe also learn of additional ones. Some of these we might very well find ourselves to be fodder for additional meetings or conference calls or workshops and so forth. So we hope 2 easels are enough. If not, we'll start pasting those pieces of paper on the wall. Now, we also know that this was a meeting, especially following the President's announcement, that lots of people wanted to come to. And we were constrained, as you can imagine, the space, if nothing else, because of the size of this room. And it's not like we had a whole lot of other options. In fact, getting into this meeting was like getting Super Bowl tickets. We were getting so many requests, and we really feel badly that we couldn't accommodate all the individuals who wanted to come. But nonetheless, so what we're doing is we're webcasting live, and I am almost certain that there's going to be many, many more people following the proceedings over the web than they are people in this room. We fully know that. In addition, many of you can join a remote, there's a WebEx platform that allows participants to join virtually, but also to submit comments and questions. And we have ways of moderating the incoming questions and comments, and we'll be feeding that into the discussion through the moderators and then through some of the structured discussion sessions that we have. In addition, you can see we have we're having comments come in from Twitter. The handle is up there if you want to see on that slide. I would also tell you, and we know joining us remotely are members of the media, and they're interested, and we hope they're interested, and this is important. We want to make sure they get their questions answered, and in fact, there's going to be a media availability so that they can get their questions answered at the end of tomorrow. So what we're going to do this morning, between now and the break, to open us off, we're going to have Francis Collins share his view of what we are trying to accomplish. But then we're going to hear from 4 working groups that have been really energetically putting together white papers that are going to serve as discussion topics. We're going to hear from presentations from each of those working groups. Those white papers, hard copies are in the folders for people in the room. For people who are remote, it's on the website associated with this meeting and associated with the Precision Medicine Initiative at NIH. So please look at those white papers. Rick Lifton is going to moderate that session and get us to the break. And from there on out, you can follow the agenda and see the other things. So I was also asked to tell you a number of logistical details. So first of all, for those in the room and want wireless, you can get onto the NIH guest network and click your way and et cetera. And usually it works pretty well, so you can get your wireless within the room. Also, I want to have, we are not going to take time to go around the room and introduce ourselves. That would take too long. I would just say a number of things. First of all, for those in the room, we have complete bios of all participants in the folder, so you could read that if you want to find out a little more about any of us. Second of all, everybody here, please wear your badges, because a lot of us are going to want to sort of meeting people for the first time. We want to make sure we could match names to faces. And I would also ask, especially for the people who are joining us remotely, that during the discussion, when you go to ask a question, quickly introduce yourself so people know exactly who it is that's asking that question. Other logistics, Sandra and her terrific staff are immediately outside this room to help you with any logistics. As you can see, and as Kathy pointed out, Allison and Stephanie to my right are in the room the whole day and tomorrow as well, and help you with anything, especially logistics associated for speakers or getting presentations up and so forth. I do want to stress, in addition, my own personal thanks to the committee that's helped get this workshop ready. You can't imagine how much effort these two put in. First of all, they have two incredibly high-maintenance bosses. Stephanie works for Kathy, Allison works for me. It's hell on a day-to-day basis. But on top of that, on top of their day job, they have been working just round the clock practically getting ready. So I just want to express my own appreciation to both of them, and I'm sure all of you share that view. Presenters should come up to the podium at the break. It breaks, and make sure that you have your presentation loaded on the house computer, and so that we can have things run smoothly. We are going to post all the presentations on the website at the conclusion of the meeting. And so for any of the presenters, if you object to that, please talk to these two. Or if you want to edit your presentation before it actually gets uploaded from what you loaded on here, talk to them as well. We'll make sure that the right presentation gets posted. Once again, we are video casting. Lots more people are listening in, and so we're going to be ruthless about making sure you're speaking into a mic and that your mic is on when you ask questions. Lunch is going to be available in the cafeteria right outside the meeting room. Coffee's available at the coffee bar. And stay outside the perimeter where the yellow tape is. It's a brand new building, and there's a little oops that happened. And so we just want to keep people safe. So there's yellow tape out there apparently for a reason, so stay outside of that perimeter. I've been told there's bathrooms somewhere out there. I'm sure they are. If you can't find them, just follow the coffee drinkers. They'll take you there. And those are the logistics. So it is my pleasure now to introduce someone that obviously doesn't need an introduction. If you don't know who Francis Collins is, you obviously either got off at the wrong stop on the red line or you went to the wrong side of the street when you came onto this campus instead of the other campus. Or if you were doing this remote, you typed in the wrong URL and you have no idea what this is all about. If you really don't know who Francis is, just Google him. There's probably a couple hits you'll find if you put his name in on Google. But in all seriousness, it's an exciting day for Francis, I'm sure. I've worked for Francis for 20 years, and so many of the ideas associated with this initiative are things that he has been promoting or been thinking about or strategizing. And his Rubik's Cube kind of brain has on many occasions brought these things together. But it's never gelled in a way that I think we have an opportunity to tee it up and make it happen now. And so I can't think of a more appropriate person to deliver sort of the vision and the charge of what we're trying to accomplish here than Francis Collins. So, Francis.
Thank you, Eric.